Okay, so let's start with your Etsy, and then we'll move into your Facebook. So you mentioned earlier, Zoe, um, that you started on Etsy, you had a trickle of sales, and then you started figuring out things out, and then you made your shop better. So let's talk about what are the specific, two or three things that
Mm.
you did to make that. First of all, what was the biggest factor in your sales? Like what was the one thing that you changed that really had the most impact on your sales, do you think?
It's got to be understanding the SEO of Etsy. So when I say SEO, I mean the search engine optimization of Etsy. Understanding how to put your title together and your tags together in order to get people to your page, in order to come up in listings and to be seen. Because so for instance, for this particular listing, if all I'd put is rainbow beads, and you see this so many times as people not really understanding, if all you're doing is putting rainbow beads, then unless someone searches for rainbow beads, that's all that it's going to come up with. It's not going to come up with anything else. You're not going to come up on anyone else's search. So you've got to understand how the SEO works and do your research, watch YouTube tutorials. As you know, I've followed Cara Bunton, who does an absolutely amazing course for helping you understand how Etsy works. And so actually really understanding that SEO is key, and you've got to have good quality photos and list daily or as often as you can and tweak bits on Etsy, because when you tweak bits on Etsy kind of pricks their ears up and go, oh, hang on a minute, this seller's doing something on their shop. They are obviously serious about what they're doing. Whereas if you just list a couple of items and then sit back and hope for the best, then Etsy's going to go, oh, well, they're not really that bothered about their shop. They haven't really done anything in it. I'm not really going to be bothered to show them very much. So you've got to be active on Etsy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so let's talk about let's pick this apart a little bit and get granular. And yeah, Cara has some great content and courses, and she's actually also a speaker in Craft Cash Summit. So for everyone listening after this, you can go listen to hers, and in the advanced premium content that you can upgrade to. She throws out some really, really great tips on SEO. So let's talk about that. So this is a set of, here's what I find interesting. What you said was, if I had listed these as, beads or color beads, then you're going to get all the people searching for color beads. But then you threw this in here, which is the LBGT beads. Then you have Pride jewelry. And then down here in your description, you say, check out the LBGT bead section. So now what you're doing is you're double dipping, right? You're getting all the traffic from Etsy, all the traffic, meaning people going into Etsy and searching for paper beads. And you're also getting all the people looking for anything related to LBGT, right? And so if someone's going to a Pride parade, or they're buying something for someone going to a Pride parade or a Pride march or anything, you're coming up in search. So is that what you're talking about? Just broadening your, okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's about, so with this particular one, so if someone put in glitter beads, my listing would come up somewhere. If they put in Pride awareness beads, my listing would come up somewhere within that list. If they put in handcrafted bicone beads, my listing would come up. And you've got to try and make yourself as searchable as possible so that you are hitting as many searches as possible in order to get that traffic coming into your shop, and then sharing the word, sharing the love.
Yeah, that's great. And let's talk about another element that I see. So But first, I want to finish with, I'll make a mental note to come back to this picture because I think it's so interesting. So you said in the beginning, you sold something to a friend or someone you knew and said, wait a minute, I can make money doing this. And then you decided to give Etsy a go.
Rollers. Yeah, just make paper bead rollers.
Just, okay, so
I started,
so you're just making the rollers at that point.
Yeah.
So when did you shift over into selling things other than rollers, and how did you know to do that? Like at what point did you say, wait a minute, I need to sell some other things in my shop?
So whenever you watch anything to do with increasing your Etsy sales and growing as an Etsy page, as a shop, it always talks about increasing the amount of items you have for sale. So I came up with pink rollers, purple rollers, turquoise rollers, but there's kind of a limit to how many variations of the theme you can do. And so, for a while I sat with that, and I had a huge selection of beads that I had made, because being an avid crafter, I love making the beads. I'm surrounded by beads. It just dawned on me one day, why don't I list those? And I don't think anyone ever tells you these things. They just, I just thought maybe I could list them, see what happens if I list them. And they sold. And because it is such a niche market, there isn't anyone out there that's going to give you advice. And don't be too worried about the fact that no one else is going to give you advice. It's fine, you just kind of have to be quite instinctive about it. And yeah, you can really see how the paper folds together in that one. You can see
that's
it's
great.
paper. And I think that's what people like, is that it's still got that root to it, that it is paper, but from a distance you wouldn't know it. So I just started selling paper beads, and they sold. And interestingly, it was only recently, and again, because I don't do this full time, it only recently dawned on me, and I don't know why it took me so long to work this one out, that I needed to do seasonal stuff. So I made some Halloween beads, and I listed them. I listed 3 sets. And I woke up in the morning and 3 sets had sold. I was like, why didn't I think of this sooner? So that's when I thought, actually, I need to start and make more of these. Yeah, I love those beads.
Okay, so, wow, there's just a lot going on here. So I want to come back to a couple of other points to help people. So the question I asked you was, what did you do to your shop to take it from kind of dabbling on Etsy to getting some serious sales? And you said, I discovered SEO, and primarily I started changing my title and then sprinkling the title. So let's go here, paper bead template. Let's go back to the LBGT because I want to understand that point a little bit better. So what you said, the answer you gave me was, I started paying more attention to my title, which is the most important thing. And then of course you're taking these words and phrases that you're trying to rank for, and you're peppering them, you're sprinkling them into your description. And then you said you're also paying attention to your tags down here.
Definitely.
And so there we have LBGT tag there. So okay, so now we got that. Now, what is the next thing that you did to really grow your sales?
You have got to have good photos, because it doesn't matter how great your SEO is. If your photos are not good, are not showing the product, people are just not going to buy them. People won't even click on your item. It doesn't matter if you're number 1 in the search. If your photos aren't good enough, then you just won't get the sales. And I think you need to find a style that works for you. find a style that you enjoy using and that customers like, and stick with it, but also don't be afraid to change it up and look at something else and try something different.
Yeah. So one thing that I see that I wanted to point out is, and I teach about this particular thing myself, and it's one of my, it's something that is such a low hanging fruit. It's so easy for sellers to do, but very few people do it, and the people who do it do not do it consistently. And you're one of those great examples of someone who does it well and consistently and so simple. And it's this concept of context, and so what I've seen on Etsy is the photos that give not just the content, which is the beads, but also have something in them that provides context. And the easiest way I found to provide context is either with the background, which is what most people think of, but even easier than background is props, right? So what I love, and you mentioned that earlier in the sort of in your shop overview when I was asking you questions, but look at these props. I mean, you have for this LBGT thing, you have a rainbow, which is a symbol of that community. Then down here you have, I love this. This is, you've got these beads that are sort of ocean theme, and you've got these sea glass behind it, and then with the blood beads, with the Dracula blood beads. I'm actually reading Dracula right now. I'm two chapters into the Bram Stoker's Dracula, coincidentally, and a gruesome book. Not for small children. Okay, let's just say that. High school, yes, not for small children. But in this picture, you have a pumpkin, and then down here I saw a couple more. You've got a pumpkin there. Yeah. So you almost don't really need to know, like if you're on Etsy particularly if you're a buyer on a mobile device, and you're skimming through, you're in a queue at the bank or something, and you open up Etsy and you're skimming through. You don't have to even be able to see the details of this to understand that there's a pumpkin there, and those are classic colors for Halloween. And these must be Halloween beads, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it just adds another dimension to your photo, and you've got to kind of have that balance of not letting it take over the photo, and because otherwise people will think they get it included, and sorry, no one's having that little pumpkin. It's not for sale. But it just adds that element to it, and I think helps the photos. Photos are not something that, I think when you run your own business, you've got to wear so many hats. You've got to be a photographer. You've got to be an SEO whiz. You've got to be a marketer. You've got to be great on social media. You've got to be good at accounting. You've got to be good at so many different things.
So I like, this is another great example. I mean, you're kind of knocking out of the ballpark here on your titles. What I'm seeing is, that's a point. A lot of attendees will go, well, wait a minute, aren't people going to be mad if they think they're getting the pumpkin? Well, my answer to that is no, you don't have to worry. And Zoe, you can tell me if I'm right or not, but it clearly states set of 7 voodoo Halloween paper beads. It doesn't say anything about a pumpkin,
I've not said including I love you pumpkin.
Right. And if you're a seller out there, or you're new to the Etsy platform, or you're new to selling your crafts online, then people understand that that photographs are contextual, and if it really bothers you, you could
just stick
right down
in
here.
Just say, pumpkin not included.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. So I love this. You say set of 7 voodoo Halloween paper beads. That's where beginners would stop. Advanced sellers like Zoe, she knows, oh, wait a minute, what else can I do? I've got Voodoo Bead Day of the Dead. So Day of the Dead is a holiday in South America, that has that arguably it doesn't have the same genesis as our Halloween tradition. And so, but she's getting to double dip here. She's saying, hey, if you buy these beads, you can use them for A or B or C. You even say Gothic voodoo, so you're getting all the Gothic stuff. So you're
witchcraft, hoodoo.
Yeah. Oh, hoodoo. I didn't even know. What is that?
That's just another variation of voodoo. Who knew?
Oh, who knew?
But it is another. Who knew? But it's another variation of voodoo.
Okay, well, there you go. Yeah. So, speaking to that, that's interesting in the nomenclature. How did you know that? Did you actually research that? Like, did you go to Wikipedia?
Yeah. So, one of the things I would say has really helped. I'd say it's really, and I'm going to say it. I'm saying it's helped. Is marmalade. Yeah. I'm only saying it tentatively. Marmalade is fantastic. It's great. But I only say a but because it's not so great when you have niche items. So if I was to go into if I was to go into marmalade and search Halloween beads, I mean, if I searched Halloween paper beads, I think marmalade would probably explode because it would have absolutely no idea what else to give you for it. But it is quite good at finding other names for things and thinking outside the box and coming up with things that you perhaps wouldn't necessarily have thought of.
That's a great point. Yeah, and
so marmalade is good.
So instead of that's the thing about tools, right? Tools are super helpful in, I would say, 80 to 90% of the time. But there's that.
It's knowing what to do with them. And knowing the limit of what they can do.
Gotcha. So that's a great point. So how did you find this term hoodoo?
I do think it probably was marmalade.
Okay, so they picked that out. Okay.
Yeah, so they came up with hoodoo, and I thought, go back to Etsy, and I will always go back to Etsy. I will always go back. So I will quite often have an iPad open and a phone open, and I will look for both of them, and I will see, well, how much actually does come up. There you go. Over 11,000 items have come up for hoodoo. Who knew?
Wow. Who knew?
Who knew?
That is
now you do,
crazy.
Though. I know. So I will always have two things open if I'm using marmalade, or even if I am doing a new listing and I'm not using it, going back to Etsy and going and having a look at other people's items. Don't be afraid to look at what other people have got. You know, if you think you might want to sell something, what else have other people put? Because, they might have come up with something that you think, that's genius. I'm going to borrow that.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Never even thought of using Gothic for one of my beads. Right, oh yeah, I'll use that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That is such great advice, is really understanding how many different use cases you can get for your craft, right? So if I'm, obviously we're talking about beads, and we're looking at these beautiful pictures, and we're talking to Zoe. And so it's easy to think that, we understand, but let's look at a different example that may not be so clear. Like, let's say you are, let me think of someone else who does, let's just look at something like t-shirts, right? Something very banal, something very common. And you do a design like wild and free. You have a t-shirt that says wild and free on it. Well, I may do that for my, boho shop, right? For my bohemian lifestyle shop.
Yeah.
But then what are some other people who might look at wild and free? It might be, well, are there people who are
travelers?
There you go. I didn't even think of that. That's perfect. Travelers that might might like wild and free.
Yeah, so, YouTubers.
Or YouTubers, right? So there are so many other places that I could
Yeah.
so many other groups that I could sell that t-shirt to, like, or maybe environmentalists who want to, for the environment to be wild and free, or, you know, any number of people that until you said travel, I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah. I think you've got to get into the mind of who might want to buy these beads
Mm-hmm.
and what would they be searching for. And
So,
sometimes it helps to kind of take yourself almost out of the situation and go to Etsy and go, well, if I was trying to find these beads, what would I put in? What would I put in to actually come up with it? Because I think sometimes you get so caught up in what you know it is. Well, I know that they are candy skull paper beads. But actually, what would someone else put in who might come across it, not necessarily be particularly focused on the fact that they're paper beads, but actually just like them because they are nice beads? And so, yeah, you've got to put yourself in the mind of the buyer of what would they perhaps use or want.
yeah, and you've got Day of the Dead, you've got Halloween in your description. Okay, perfect. So the biggest changes to your business were, one, when you started really focusing on SEO so you could get found organically on that platform.
Yep.
And then two, you said, was the pictures,
Yeah.
getting better pictures. What are you doing to get, what can you give us just a couple, maybe other than what we talked about in the pictures, but what are some tips and tricks? Because these pictures are really great.
I use my iPhone. Any money you make, you've got to decide what you're going to do with that money. And I could go out and buy a really expensive camera and a big expensive kind of studio in order to set up and do these photos. But actually, if I can use my iPhone, I will do. So I think that would be another tip I'd give to new people who are just thinking of selling. Use what you've got, because I can guarantee you probably will get good results if you can work out how to do it right. And I will show you, bear with me, I will show you. I went to my local DIY store and I got these 2 samples of
that's great.
flooring.
That's great.
And I basically put them down like that, prop them up, and that's what I take my photos against.
That is genius. I love that.
And it just comes apart and I can just put it away when I don't need them anymore. Again, that probably cost £4, which is probably about $6, $6.50. Yeah, so it doesn't have to. Again, I was never, and I kind of almost don't want to be in a position where I pay to get professional photography done of my items, because I like to have that control over it. I like to be able to choose how I want them to look or how I want them done.
Yeah, that's great. The background. So this really beautiful blonde wood, which has a great neutral backdrop to your very colorful beads. That you bought that's just what is that? A tile? That's a tile, right?
It's a laminate flooring sample.
Laminate flooring. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's genius. That is genius.
£2 from, you bring home and decide whether you like. Well, I bought them home because I just wanted them because I liked the wood. I liked the idea of the wood, and I thought it was like quite a nice neutral back. I know a lot of people say you need to have a white background, but I never find that it really shows off your products, and I find it quite simple. I just don't think your products always show out and show as well as they could.
And then what do you do for the lighting? Because your lighting is just perfect.
Well, we are blessed in the UK with not so many sunny days. So I generally set myself up outside on a not quite so sunny day, which is generally every day, and use just outside, just natural, shady sunlight. You can see there where obviously the sun did come out, but I went with it,
That's great. So these are, okay, so you basically take these two floor remnants, which you got for $6. That's awesome. And
Yeah.
then you put some
Sea
some
glass.
props, you
Yeah.
put some sea glass out there, you put your beads, you're outside and you just start shooting away.
Yep. I just go, right, that's it. It's photographing time, and get everything you need together, get all the props together. It's probably one of the things I actually hate doing the most. I don't find it as creatively rewarding as
Mm-hmm.
making the beads, but it's one of those necessary evils. It has to be done. So I just save them all up and do them on one day and get them done. Yeah.
Okay, so
And then, sorry, I was just going to say the advantage of doing them on your iPhone or on whatever or on whatever phone you've got is that you can then instantly share them to Instagram and Facebook and all the other social medias, rather than if I'd taken them with a proper camera and they were on a memory stick or on like a little memory card. It's not quite so easy to be able to sit whilst you're eating dinner or watching telly and just update Instagram and things.
yeah, that's a great point. I love that point. Yeah, this is the same exact image here on your Instagram.
Yep. Just straight on over, just
That's great.
it just makes it much simpler, because again, if ever you need to use them for anything, they're just on your phone, they're on one device, and it makes it so much simpler.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you
That's
for
a
the
great tip. So you take them on your iPhone, you upload them to your Etsy, you upload them to your Instagram, and what was the other place you upload them to?
So I'll upload them to Facebook, my Facebook page.
Okay.
And then I've recently, in the last, I think about 5 weeks, 6 weeks, started a Facebook group.
Okay, and how do I get to that? Let's see.
So if you scroll down, there should be a link to it. Again, you know what I mean? Like when you go, so if you see more, I don't know, you tell me.
Let me
I
go
couldn't
to.
honestly tell you.
Is it linked to your?
Well,
let me
this
go
is a
to
good question. Possibly
usually,
not. I think this is one of those things that, again, you end up having so many different hats on that you don't always know how to do things.
So, so what is the name of the group? And I'll look it up organically.
It's Squeak Chimp Paper Bead Group. Yeah. There it is. Can you see the third one down?
Oh, here we go.
That's
this one
it.
here?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
So that'll take you to me. So if you go back and click on the group name. That's it.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you. Thank you.
There we go. So yeah, so it's been up and running for about 6 weeks. And I think you are about number 60 something. So it's growing, which is really great. It's exciting. Hard work, exciting. So the picture at the top, I always have a little bit of a competition to see, once a week or however often, to change the picture at the top, which is always good. So this, if you just go back to that picture there above it, that chandelier, this was a lady that did one of my workshops 2 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
Who's posted a picture of what she's created. So
wow.
That's a mixture of glass and paper beads.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Amazing.
Isn't it?
That's really amazing.
And that for me as well is great to see someone coming back a couple of years later to know that A, they're still doing it, and B, wow, look what they've managed to produce.
Wow. And she took one of your live classes?
Yeah, she did. She did when I was doing workshops. She took one of my live classes. In fact, she came to a couple of them. And yeah.
And so this is a Facebook group of people who, are they your customers, or are they just random people on Facebook? How are they getting here?
They are people on Facebook who like paper beading, who have requested to join the group. There are, believe it or not, loads of people out there. There are loads of them. And yeah, so they come in, they can post their own pictures, they can, you know, just come in for ideas, inspiration.
Huh.
Mm.
That's fantastic. It's great. Okay, and these are...
Yeah, so that's another seller who, again, you know, I love to support other sellers. That's another seller. She's actually not that far from me in Bournemouth. She sells these pen blanks that you can attach beads to.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Interesting.
so you can stick your beads on those.
Oh, cool.
So I'll always try and support other sellers as well.
And are these your beads on drying skis?
They are another member's beads. So I used her picture as the cover shot because she posted on my page. So I always like to feature other people's beads as well.
That's a great
kind of community feel.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Is giving, you know, kind of being the host of the party, but not the center of attention, right?
Absolutely. And it's only about 5 weeks old, this group.
Wow.
And again, it's something that dawned on me. I've got a Facebook page, but I don't have a Facebook group. Well, okay, I had a spare 5 minutes, so I went off and created one. And it's kind of growing. And it's great to see it growing. And ultimately, it would be nice to, again, absolutely become, where other people are posting a lot more.
It looks like you're using some of the polling functions in groups, which is a great feature. Yeah. Are there any other features you really like when you switch to groups? Because groups, for those of you who don't know, Facebook has 3 different kind of, I would say, accounts that you can hold. One is your personal account. That's the one you share with grandma, mom, and grandma. Then you have a public profile. Some people have a public profile account. That would be, you know, if you're a politician or you're a famous author, speaker, then you would have a Facebook public profile, which is different from the one you share with mom and grandma, and it's usually authenticated with a little check mark once you pass whatever their hurdles are to get that. And then we have a business page, or what Facebook calls pages, and then we have groups. So really four kind of categories, if you want to look at it that way. And each category gives you different tools, right? You can't access some tools in, like business gives you a whole set of tools that you can't access in your personal Facebook account. And so what tools in groups have you really liked using from someone coming from a business? Is that a business page? Is your Facebook? Yeah. Okay, that is a business page.
The other one's a business page. I like the fact that I can, so obviously on my business page, I am posting things because I want people to buy things. Mm-hmm. So there's always that kind of pressure that every post you do has to be, you know, spot on, the best pictures, and it's always yours unless you're sharing other people's work. I think in the group, it is that developing that more of a community feel. And especially if you are doing something that is quite niche, I don't know anyone around where I live that makes paper beads, so I never meet up with anyone. Whereas this is a really good place to see what other people are doing, where people can share things. And, you know, I think that community feeling and that sense of sort of belonging to something and seeing what other people are doing is great. And it's educational. Mm-hmm. People always ask questions, and
that's great.
Seeing how people photograph things as well is really interesting as well, because you sort of pick up tips and I like the group. The
so
group.
Are these affiliate links here in your group?
They are just photographs.
Oh, just photographs.
The Etsy sorry, the YouTube tutorial I do has affiliate links on.
Okay, so let's go back there because that's a place that
Should have
a lot of
affiliate.
people miss. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
hopefully. I'm saying it has. I'm hoping that it has got that one. Yeah. So if you go to the description, it should have affiliate links.
yeah, because this one has, you're profiling a whole bunch of different
Yeah.
items to make the beads, you know, harden, right? So you've got, yeah, you've got a, okay. So you're kind of making money everywhere, right? You're making money off of the links, the affiliate links in your videos. You're making money on your Etsy. You've got a group that people can be a part of, and then eventually move them into either some training or some online help, or just profiling them and helping them out.
And hopefully everything will lead to everything else. So, you know, whilst I have an Etsy, a Facebook group, I'm hoping that they might go to my YouTube channel, which will help that grow, which in turn, hopefully they'll look at the description and either visit my shop or visit the affiliate links. And in turn, by visiting my shop, they'll purchase things. And so it's kind of creating that loop, which isn't something that happens overnight. It's something that takes time to grow. It just takes time, doesn't it? Everything takes time. But when you can see actually, yeah, it's working. It's great.
Yeah. So, all right, those are fantastic tips. Let's just kind of finish up by talking about this last point, which is, it looks like you started your product line looks like it's really grown from just the rollers. So you started with the rollers, and then it looks like you moved into beads, and then you moved into these bead what are these?
Bead cores. Yeah.
Cores. Okay, bead cores, and then and then you've got these earring hooks, and then there was something else in here. What was it?
So yeah, there's all sorts of various different bits of jewelry findings. I think you would refer to them as.
Oh, it was the down.
Yeah,
it was like the paper and the template. It was the downloadable templates. Here we go.
Yeah, yeah.
So when did you decide to do this? I like this because my focus is on right now because of, well, for a lot of reasons. I try to encourage as many sellers as I can to have at least part of their shop as passive income.
Yeah, yeah. It was something that I was making these templates for myself. And then all of a sudden it dawned on me, as most of the things happened in my shop, they just one day, randomly, probably whilst I was driving somewhere, why don't you sell them? So I did. I uploaded a few of them and they were downloaded. And so I then uploaded more because I had them. They were already there. They were just literally sitting there on my computer because I'd made them in order to make the paper beads I wanted. So it's something I really want to move with as well, because I do work full time, or I do a lot of hours over 4 days. When you get a sale that's for an instant download, I'm like, yes, I haven't got to do anything. I do not have to do a thing. I can just sit back and relax. And whilst it's not the biggest sale in the world, they do start to mount up.
Yeah. What was it like? I mean, I remember what it was like for me. What was it like the first time you made a sale? You put $1.99 in your pocket, minus Etsy and processing, but you literally, money went into your account and you had to do absolutely nothing. There's no shipping, there's no boxing, there's no weighing, there's nothing. What did that feel like?
So on your phone, on my phone, when I'm at work, I get like the notifications, and obviously I'm not paying attention to my phone at all when I'm at work. Slightly having a little look down and slight press of the button to see what it was. And there's always that, you always hope it's going to be a big sale, but then, you know, then when it comes up and it's always that, because you can't find it as well, I find, because it's gone directly to completed. I'm like, well, where is the sale? What was the sale? So then I check my emails and I can see that it was a download. And it's that feeling of, oh, it's kind of, it's just, it is great. Passive income is great. And it's great because it's something I can create as well. So I'm not losing anything creative by doing it, because I've had to create them. So I'm not sort of cheating myself out of the creative process. But yeah, it's a good feeling, because you just sit back and go, okay, marvelous. I haven't got to do anything but that one.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So let's see, what is this one? The 10 bestseller paper bead making template. Okay, this is an instant download as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so this one is more expensive because they're getting the 10 different downloads.
Yep. So all 10 of those different beads are included.
Gotcha. Okay, so those are great. So they download it to their computer, and they would print it on a color printer, and then they would get these.
Yep, they print it, and I always design my templates as well so that it maximizes their ink. So the
cool.
middle part of the bead is always white. I don't put any ink there, because there's nothing worse than rolling the bead and all that color just disappears because you're not going to see it. So I always maximize for the buyer their printer ink.
That's pretty cool. Okay, so so you're really kind of expanding that range right now, and and it's interesting what you said was, and I've learned this a long time ago in business. One of my business coaches said, oftentimes the byproduct of your main business can grow as large as your main business. And so what was funny is when you said that, you said, oh, these are just things I created for my own beads, and they were sitting on my hard drive, making me absolutely $0.
Yeah, absolutely. They were just sitting there. And then I don't know why. I think because a lot of the time as small businesses, we do things on our own. There isn't always somebody there that going, right, what you need to do is this next, and what you need to do is this. You kind of have to discover these things yourself. And generally it is when I'm driving around or, you know, taxiing my daughter around, that all of a sudden I'll go, well, why didn't I think of that before? It's a bit like being an inventor. Why didn't I come up with that before? Why did it never dawn on me? But you do it and you go, oh, that works. Yeah.
So you say here, this is fantastic too, by the way. I have a YouTube video to show you how to get the most out of your download papers. Search for it in Squeaker Chimp. So they buy this, they download it, and then all they have to do really is just go to this video and watch it, right?
Yeah. So a while ago, you could put links to external things on your descriptions. Then Etsy said no. And at the moment, I'm not quite sure if you're allowed to or not. I'm probably guessing the answer is no. But I have labels that I stick on all my parcels to send people with the right address to go to my YouTube channel. I might, thinking about it now, again, it's one of those things, why have I never thought of it before, is to add that link to my email when someone purchases something. You know, just little things kind of pop up that you kind of think, oh yeah, well that would make sense. Why didn't I do that before?
I see. So the white part is the part you don't see.
Yeah,
I see.
You don't see that. So there's no point in putting color there. So you might as well save their printing.
Wow, that's a great idea. And so it looks like you've had almost 600 people watch just this video. That's great. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, perfect. Well, those are some fantastic tips, Zoe. I really, really appreciate you doing some deep dive training with us. And there were so many great tips that are so simple. They don't take, I mean, literally participants, those of you listening in Craft Cash Summit now, these are little tips that you can literally go do today, and they're cheap. I love that. I mean, going to a hardware store and buying some samples to use as your backgrounds, using some simple upgrades to your photography, spreading those images instantly through your phone to your social media accounts. Wow, there's a lot of great tips, Zoe. Really appreciate you coming and speaking with us at the summit. And for those of you who want to have access to all the links and to find out more about Zoe, join her group, her Facebook group, and anything else that she has. Do you offer any kind of help to crafters? Do you have any kind of coaching or anything like that people can reach out to you for?
I mean, I'm always happy to help people who are crafting, because you know, it's such a steep learning curve, and so I'm always happy to help people if they want to reach out, ask me any questions. I will always reply to them. You know, if they want me to look at an Etsy listing and give them my opinion on it, or you know, if they want me to help with photographs, always happy for people to ask me questions.
Okay, perfect. And we will have all those links in your speaker page on Craft Cash Summit. So again, Zoe, thank you so much for speaking with us today.
Thank you very much. Enjoyed it. It's great.
Okay, got that.